Namaskaram, Vanakkam, everybody, Swagatam. We're thrilled to have you all join us today for Kalai Nirai Foundations. We'll start again. Namaskaram, Vanakkam. Welcome, and everybody, Swagatam to Kalai Nirai Foundation's second virtual educational program since its inception in March 2023. My name is Archana Sunil. I am a volunteer with Kalai Nirai Foundation and one of the founding members of Kalai Nirai Foundation, along with Srimati Vidya Jairaman, Dr. Shri Shyam Panchapakeshan, Kumari Kesani, and Chiranjeevi Raghav Sunil. Kalai Nirai Foundation is a 501c3 nonprofit organization in the US, which was started with the blessings of Jagadguru Sri Shankara Vijayendra Saraswati Shankaracharya Swamigal of Moolamnaya Sri Sarvagni Sri Kanchi Kamakoti Peetham in March 2023. Our mission is to support and promote the preservation of Bharatiya heritage, traditions, culture, and knowledge systems in the US, Bharatam, and around the world, primarily through youth engagement. We hope to accomplish our mission through education and awareness programs such as today's workshop, drama productions, performing, and visual arts. It is Sri Periva's Agnya to also organize heritage travel tours for youth and their families in the US to come spend time in our gramams in Bharatam. So we hope to launch this first Grama Yatra for families in 2024. So look for that announcement as well. We will also be initiating some youth volunteering activities in the US and in Bharatam through programs like this so that we can connect the youth in the US and around the world with their counterparts in rural Bharatam. We hope you will all stay in touch with us and join us in this work as we make progress. And with that, I'd like to introduce our guest for today, Shri Vinod Rajan. Shri Vinod Rajan is a computer scientist with a passion for data, writing systems, languages, and digital humanities. After obtaining his PhD in digital paleography, he had a brief academic experience in Scotland and Germany. He currently works as a senior consultant in Berlin, specializing in data engineering, cloud architecture, legacy system modernization, and front-end design and development. He is the creator of Aksharmukha, a script converter that many of us have probably used. Granthavarman, a portal that converts Devanagari Romanized text into Grantha. Satisar, a portal that converts Devanagari Romanized text into Sharada script. Jinavani, which converts the modern Tamil script into its ancient predecessors, namely Tamil Brahmi and Vattirudhu. He has created several fonts which are widely used, such as the Adinatha Tamil Brahmi font, Arvar Telugu, Arishtanemi Tamil, Vajranandi Tamil, and Agastya. You can view his entire profile at www.virtualvinod.com, which lists several pages of his research and linguistics accomplishments and contributions to ancient Bharatiya languages. I am personally looking forward to learning more from Sri Vinod today. Welcome to Kalai Nirai, Sri Vinod.
Oh, thank you. I suppose we might as well start, right? Let me share my screen. This one. Okay, that's my email. Is my screen visible?
Yes, Vinodji, it is visible. And I just wanted to make one announcement, just to request everybody to please hold your questions till the end. So it gives Vinodji an opportunity to get through his material, and then he'll get to all your questions.
Right. Yeah, let me start. Again, same public service announcement. I tend to speak fast. If it's too fast, just stop me and I'll try to speak slow. And I did the same thing yesterday. My time management was pretty bad. This time I'll try to pace myself so that we can cover enough materials because I have like 130 slides and like 90 minutes. No, two sets 90 minutes. So let's start. Thanks again for taking a Sunday to attend this workshop to learn about index scripts, that's origins, how it developed, and where it is used outside India, and yada 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 yada. Okay, you have noticed I have used the term index, not Indian. It's a deliberate choice because Indic, when you say Indian, it's connected to the modern Republic of India. Right? But when you go like a millennia back, what's the Indian cultural area spans from what's now Afghanistan to what's now pretty much Vietnam, right? Everything was like Indianized, so as to say. So it kind of skips over all the political implications of saying like Indian. So Indic kind of like abstract that. Uh, so let me start. It's not working as it. Right. So let's start with the origins of Indian writing. So the first mention of like the earliest mention of Indian writing would be Panini, and he mentions the word Lipi or Lipi in his third chapter of Ashtadhyayi. So you know, Ashtadhyayi is a Sanskrit treatise. It gives lots of rules about how to form words in Sanskrit for the suffix kara, right? He gives all these words that can take that suffix. So with lipi or libi, you can form the word lipikaraha or lipikaraha, which means a scribe, which one might assume like Panini knew about writing, right? And because he gives the word for scribe. And one thing you might notice is like he gives two variants, gives lipi or libi, which most likely points out the fact that it might have been borrowed, right? And the usual suggestion is like it comes from Persian Lipi because where was Panini from? He was in the northwest, which was under a Persian kingdom for a long, long time, right? And the Persian Lipi again, it comes from Sumerian, from Akkadian, and it comes again from Sumerian. It all goes the borrowing of borrowing of borrowing of borrowing. So he knew about writing, right? He knew about writing. The latest of Panini is like around 400 BCE, give or take 100 years. But what writing did he know, right? And then we come to the fourth chapter, right? He again gives more rules about word formation. And one of the rules he gives us to how to form feminine words, right? So if you want to form a feminine of a word, of certain words, you apply the rule anuk, the suffix anuk, and you get the feminine word, right? One of the example he gives is yavana, right? To form the feminine form of yavana, you get the word yavanani, right? But what does yavanani mean, right? The commentators, several hundred years after that, they gloss it as Greek script, right? Yavananam lipihi, yavanani. The script of the Greeks is called yavanani, right? So when Panini talks about writing, what writing did he actually think about, right? Again, Panini was from Northwest. The most probably like he knew about Aramaic, right? Or he knew about like Greek script. But so he knew about writing either Greek or Aramaic. But did he actually write Ashtadhyayi? He composed it, that's for sure. But was it ever like physically written down by him? Most likely not, because either Aramaic or Greek, even the earliest Indian writing, that's Kharoshti, none of them are suitable to write Sanskrit, right? And if you have read the Ashtadhyayi, it's very dense, it's very terse. It's as if it's been composed to be transmitted orally. Again, I haven't mentioned the in the script because it's not a decipher. We don't know whether it's writing. There have been lots of crackpot theories. It's very Sanskrit, it's Tamil, it's this, it's that, it's that. But we don't know. We even don't know if it's even like encodes a language because the longest is around what, like 25 signs or 30 signs, if I remember. And they're like very, very short signs, right? So we don't know what it is. It might be a language. It might not even be a language. Uh, so just to preface, so Indians knew about writing, right? So they had contact with Persians, they had contact with Greeks. They knew about writing. But you may ask, like, why did they not just adopt writing, right? They had all these cultures around them, which wrote. Um, One of the things, like, at least people suggest, is that Indian culture is pretty much very oral, right? It prefers oral transmission, right? For instance, Vedas for a long, long, long time were not written down, right? It was forbidden, or not, it wasn't really forbidden. It was like looked down upon to write the Vedas. Even if you take the Buddhists, who are like voracious scribes, even the Pali Sutras, they weren't written down like very, very late, even after Ashoka, right? It was actually written down in Sri Lanka. And the reason it was written down, again, if you want to believe the commentators, that there was a famine, and there were a lot of, there weren't enough monks to continue the transmission. So this Sri Lankan king said, you know what, let's write it down. Uh, so India as a culture, it um, it prefers oral transmission. Right? You take a text, you memorize it, and you pass it on. That's how people still now people how people read, people learn. And again, with any technology, anything at all, it's new, and people are generally conservative. They don't want to change, and there might have been some resistance to adopt something new. So there is this very, very nice story by the Greeks, right? Because Greeks invaded Egypt. It was in the Greek Empire for a long, long time. One of the stories they had about Egyptians were like, Egyptian writing is like very old, like around 5,000 years old, or at least the origins of 5,000 years old. And the story is like, so this Egyptian god of writing, he's thought, he goes to the king, you know what? Hey, king, have this beautiful invention. It's called writing. It will make our people wiser. It will improve their memories. He can pass on all this knowledge. Oh, look at this wonderful, great thing that I have discovered. And the king, the first king of Egypt, apparently, he goes like, you stupid person, what have you done? What I've invented is useless. It's going to degrade people's knowledge. People are just going to read and pretend that they know. They're just going to look like as if they know everything because they can read, but they don't know everything. Again, the idea is like, here's something new, and you want to adopt something, there's always some pushback of like adopting new. There's another very miscellaneous shloka which goes like Kiti Shigri Shirakampi Yatha Likita Pataka Anadhajnyo Lipi Kanthascha Tadete Pataka Adamaha. Like one who sings, one who just recites very, very fast, one who shakes his head, and one who reads from the text, and one who doesn't understand what he's saying, and one who mumbles. They are the six types of like the worst reciters, right? And one of the six type of worst reciters are like people actually read from the book. There's another verse which again is from Tiruvallumalai, which is probably around say 10th century, right? In 11th century, it's quite late. Again, there's this the how it praises Tirukural, but Tiruvalluvar is like, you know what? This Brahmins, they don't write down the Vedas because they think if you write down the Vedas, its efficacy will be lost. But what's good about Tirukural? It's written down. Even if anyone reads it, its efficacy will never be lost. So, assuming it's around 10th century, even until then, there was this taboo of not writing down the Vedas. Of course, it did not last long. You had here Manuscript of Vedas. It means eventually it was written down, whether people liked it or not, because without writing, it's hard to pass on knowledge. So all this prehistory, right? And so suddenly you get Ashoka, and you get writing pretty much everywhere, right? As you know, Ashoka converted to Buddhism. He just wanted to put all these edicts on the four corners of his kingdom, right? And you not only get of one Indian script, and you get evidence of two Indian scripts, right? One is Brahmi, which is used pretty much all over what's now mainland India, and they used Kharoshti in the what's now Pakistan, Afghanistan, northwest of India. And of course, being the international person that he was, he also gave edicts in Greek, because by then there were Greek kingdoms in India. Alexander invaded India, were Greeks living in India, and Aramaic, because again it was under the Persian sphere of influence. There were people who spoke Aramaic, so he actually used four scripts: Greek, Aramaic, which were foreign scripts, and he also used two Indian scripts, as to say, which is Brahmi and Kharosthi. And another question is how do we know what these names, these scripts are called? The thing is, we don't know, right? People discover these two writings in the edicts, and if you go to look all these Buddhist and Jain texts, the earliest scripts were called. They refer to two early scripts, which is Brahmi and Koroshti. One is supposed to go from left to right, another is supposed to go from right to left, like Arabic or Hebrew. And you have these two earliest writings, right? One goes from left to right, another goes from right to left. So most likely, you're not 100% sure, most likely this writing that people are talking about, which is called Brahmi, and the one that goes from right to left is probably Kharoshti, that people were writing about, right? They were just assigned based on pure conjecture. There is no written evidence of what these scripts are actually named, right? So these are Ashokan edicts. As you guys might know, so this is Brahmi, and this is right. As you can see, both are two different steps. One you can see that clearly this goes from left to right. As you can see, it stops here, and you can see it actually goes from right to left, and it stops here, right? You can get the orientation of the script. You can also see how different they look. One looks properly geometric, very, very pretty, very, very symmetric, and the other looks like a proper scribble by a scribe, right? So let me start with Roshti, because people know about, more or less they heard about Brahmi, which is the most common script of the Ashokan edicts, right? But most likely Kharoshti predates Brahmi, right? And so let's start with Kharoshti and then we'll move to Brahmi. So Kharoshti is one of the, in fact, it was the only Indian script that went from right to left. So you have like Arabic, Hebrew, all these Middle Eastern scripts. They actually went from go from right to left, and most Indian scripts go from left to right, at least now. But back then, there was an Indian script that was actually written down right to left. I said it's most likely earlier than Brahmi. It probably matured, not originated, probably it's matured around like a bit earlier than Brahmi, around 300 BC, give or take few years. And you have samples writing, which is the Lalita Vistara and Kharoshti. Before we go to Kharoshti, we have to see the political situation in India. Right. Back then, right, what's Northwest now was under Persian influence for around like 200 to 300 years, right? So it was ruled by Persians, and Persians used Aramaic as their official language. It was the lingua franca of the entire empire. In fact, it was the lingua franca of the entire Middle East, right? And you might know, Jesus didn't speak Hebrew. Jesus actually spoke Aramaic. It was the most popular language. It was administrative language, and it was also administrative language of like what was the Indian parts of the empire, right? And most likely, the empire had its own administrators, scribes, and they knew how to read and write Aramaic. And most likely, some of the administrators were like local from Gandhara, right? And they most likely learned to read and write Aramaic. And you can most likely, again, can guess that like not the entire population, at least a significant section of the population, they had exposure to Aramaic, and they probably had exposure to writing. As I said, Ashoka not only did edicts in Indian languages, he also did edicts in his neighboring foreign languages, and that would also be in Aramaic, right? Um, One of the features of Aramaic, as you might notice, they don't write vowels. You can see this is a sample Ashokan edict. You can see the word Priyadarshi. They are marked here, and you can see that it's not written down, right? And I mean, the vowels are written down. You only write the consonants. The vowels that you have to guess, right? Um, Again, these are the 22 letters of Aramaic, 22 consonants. As a rule, vowels were not written down. They had few tricks to write some vowels, but as a rule, vowels are not indicated, right? Uh, but it works out. Even if English, right, you don't write the vowels, you can pretty much guess what I mean. In the same way, this model worked for like make the language was in such a way you only had to write the consonants, and based on the context, you can guess what it is. As you can see, the first thing is this is basically Aramaic. And this is Kharoshti, right? And you can see like how similar Kharoshti is to Aramaic in terms of style, in terms of appearance, and also in terms of the writing direction, right? In fact, you can see that the nerves here, the two ends are pretty much the same in like Aramaic and Kharoshti, right? You can see like the letters are like very, very similar. You can see the letter here, and you can see the letter here, right? You can see like where I'm coming from, right? So it's pretty clear that when Kharoshthi developed in northwest of India, people had exposure to Aramaic. They basically took it and adopted it for Indian use, right? Uh, how did they do it? So, how did it happen? Of course, it did not happen like overnight, right? All these things take like lots of time. Right? So, assuming like say you're a local administrator of the Persian Empire, right? Your language is Gandhari Prakrit. But as an administrator, you have learned to read and write Aramaic. Right? Sometimes when British ruled us, we learned English to read and write, even though our local language was different, right? So you always have these learned people, right, who could read Aramaic, but the local language was Gandhari. And maybe you want to take down records, right? And you want to write down some local names and local places and local particular to your place, but Aramaic was not enough, right? Because not writing down vowels might work for Aramaic, it does not work for Indian languages, right? If I just write down a string of consonants, without any vowels at all, I can't guess what it means for. If I want to say Gata, Gati, and Gita, I don't know, Gatu, whatever it is, right? And Indian languages don't work that way. Vowels are very, very important, right? And you need to mark them to guess what word I'm talking about, right? Um, so what these scribes could have done, right? Let's assume like you have like 4 Aramaic letters for G, G sound, K sound, P sound, and the third sound, and you won't write the word Gati and Pataka, right? Okay. Based on my knowledge of Aramaic, I'm going to say, you know what? I have this letter for G and T. I'm going to write it down. Again, I have letters for P, T, and K. I'm going to write it down. But that's not enough, right? I said, I need to write vowels, right? Okay, I'm a scribe, administrator. I want to write everything fast. So I come with my own shorthand. I want to put some marks on top of the letters, right? And mark, okay, this is R sound, this is E sound, this is U sound, right? I can guess, okay, you know what? Okay, now this means I can read as Gati. Now I can read as Pataka, right? It's fine, but it's very inefficient because the most common vowel in Indian languages is R, right? And there is no point of writing because I can, you know what? If we don't write anything at all, I will assume the consonant has an R sound, right? And if you want to give it a vowel, I just put some squiggly marks on the letter to indicate vowel letters. Efficient, it saves time, it works. Give me a minute. But again, I have a problem, right? I want to write the word tapta, it's just a made up words. Now I can write the pa and the, right? And bakanti, it doesn't work. I want to write the word the, right? Again, you have to think from a person who's exposed to a consonantal system, right? For them, a single visual letter corresponds to a consonant. If you think like that, right, what could I do? Right? I can just 2 letters, push it together to get like one single letter. Yeah, I can the word and write the word tapta, right? It works out. But again, I have a problem, right? Aramaic only has 22 sounds, but my language Gandhari has lots and lots of more sounds. It has like ghas, thas, all the Mahapranas, which Aramaic doesn't have. So what do I do? What can I do? Again, I have pata, right? I write pata, that's fine. But I want to write the word patha, right? what could I do? I can just take the, right? And I can basically change the slightly, right? And I can create a new letter for my Mahabharata. And that's pretty much what happened. Right? There are people who knew Aramaic, they wanted to adopt it or modify it for like Gandhari. Basically, they took any letter that has a more or less the same sound in both Aramaic and Gandhari. They borrowed it wholesome. That works out. Again, if you have a sound that's not in Aramaic but in Gandhari, they took a letter, you can see, right? And they basically modified it, right? Again, as the example is like you have ga, but you want gha, and put extra letter, right? Then we have na. I want the mudhanya na, the retroflex na. I can just do this, right? And it works out, right? And that's how pretty much Kharashti works. Let me clear this one. I think. Right. So I said, right, you have all these consonants, right? But what you want to do is like, you want to write the vowels. So I have like, let me screen. It works out. So I have just, right? But I have 4 directions. Right. And have 4 vowels. You have A, E, U, A, and O. Right. I don't want to ask, I think like every letter is an A, that's fine. And I have 4 letters. I can put E here, U here, okay, here. Yeah, you get the idea, right? You can put scribbles here, 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 and here. All the 4 directions to mark the 4 vowels. And that's pretty much what happened. So you have a top sign here. You have one at the top, one at the bottom. One actually set at the top here, and one here, same way here, right? It's very simple. It's very fast. You just put a stroke here and there and there, and you write your vowels. Again, Gandhari, like Aramaic, didn't have any vowels, right? But they had this the letter for the sound. And you say the sound. They had the sound for that letter for that sound. So that was repurposed to indicate right? So you can just take that sound as and I can do the same modification. I can do E, I can do U, and I can do A, and I can do. So I don't need different letters to write my basic vowels, right? I can just take I can do the same thing I did for like my consonants, and I can write all these other vowels as well. Again, same with Samitaksharas, as we've seen, you just take 2 letters and you basically switch them together. So write ka, you take ka, and you take ka, and you basically switch them together, right? And you get the ka. And it works out, right? And you have a reasonable system that can write your Gandhari language. Again, one thing you can't do, you don't differentiate between Dirgha and Hrasva. I write key, whether it's key or key, I don't write it. maybe you can guess it based on context. Again, I can write ku. I can't write ku or ku. I only can write one letter that says a ku sound. It can be either long or short. Again, you can guess it by context, right? When you write English, when you write Indian language in English, right? Mostly we don't differentiate long and short, right? When you say maha, you only write M-A-H-A, but we know that the last sound is long. Pretty much the same. You can, most things you can get it by context. So there's one of those different inscriptions in the casket written in Gandhari and in Kharoshti, and it goes Vishwavarmasa Stratagesa Putre Indravarma Kumare Sabharyaye Ime Sharira Pratitavati Tanuakami Tubami Vishwavarmo Stratego Shishirena Ya Strataga Bharya Puyeta Indravasu Aparaja Vasumitraya Jiva Putra Puyeta. Right. It says Jiva, but you know it's Jiva, it's long. Same way it says Kumare, but you know that it's long, right? It must be Kumare. Again, it's Bharyae, Sharira, it's long. But you can, it's not perfect, but you can kind of make out what it means. But unfortunately, Kharoshti did not survive for a long time. Right? And it went extinct, right? At least in India, it only survived for like around like until like third century CE, like third or fourth century CE, and it was supplanted by, right, of course, the remnants of Koroshti survived a bit longer in Central Asia, also in China, because it traveled along with Buddhism, along with religion. It went to Central Asia and China. So when something goes along with religion, it gets this very mysterious nature and it kind of survives a bit longer. So, because the latest inscription you can find is comes from China and it's like around 7th century CE. So it did survive, lingered, it lingered a bit longer outside India. But within India, by 3rd century BC, 3rd century or 4th century CE, it was pretty much went extinct because everybody started adopting Brahmi, right? And why? Maybe politics, or most likely Brahmi was like, it was a much developed system, right? You had all these different signs for the vowels. A, E, U, A, all of them had different vowels, different signs, and you can differentiate between long and short, ka and ka, ki and ki, ku and ku, right? You could differentiate that in Brahmi, and objectively, Brahmi was like pretty, right? Again, if I go back, yes, right. You can see that Brahmi object looks pretty. It's very symmetric. It's beautiful to look at compared to Kharoshti, which was most like developed by scribes, by administrators, which looks like scribble shorthand. But it was essentially that, right? But Brahmi is an objectively prettier looking script. Most likely that could have been the reason. Uh, but for whatever reason it is, let me go back. So, but whatever reason it is, Brahmi did not survive for long. Sorry, Karaoke did not survive for long, right? It was totally supplanted by Brahmi. But once Brahmi was like introduced, it pretty much took over entire content. All languages from whatever from the northern Prakrit to like Sinhala in Sri Lanka or like Tamil in Tamil Nadu, everybody used Brahmi to write, right? One of those probably golden ages where you could travel from like one part to another part of India. You might not understand what's written, but most likely you could read what, because for at least for a span of like 300 400 years, everybody was using the same script far and wide. I'll stop on that note. I've been speaking for like 35 minutes. So let's take a 5-minute break. And we'll start with Brahmi. Yeah. We'll take a short 5-minute break. If that
Okay,
makes
sounds good. Thank you.
no worries.
Let's hear from the people, from all our guests today. How many of you are kids and young adults? And I'm not going to differentiate you by age, but we're just curious to see, what our audience is like so that we can better cater our programs and outreach as well. So if there are any children, young adults, please speak up. If you're too shy, you can put it in the chat too. Just let us know where you're joining us from and how you heard about this program while we give Vinodji a break. Yes,
And you
Indrajit?
guys can take a break as well, so it's not just for me. For me to keep speaking, but it's hard to listen.
And pay attention. That is correct. Very
Yeah,
true.
that's right. Yeah.
Yeah. Namaste,
Namaste,
Indrajit. Please speak.
Namaste, Vinod sir. Namaste, Archana madam. Myself, Indu BS. I'm from Bangalore. Basically, I'm a dancer. So, since few years, I've been pursuing with one PhD work of mine, which correlates a Sanskrit text being analyzed for dance, Bharatanatyam, basically. So, I was more interested into learning this. I do know a little bit of Sanskrit, so very interested to learn how best we can do with different kind of scripts and this transliteration work
Wow.
and all
Fascinating.
that.
Very nice.
Thank you, ma'am.
No,
Thank you
please
so
don't
much
call
for
me
this
ma'am. You can just
wonderful
call me
opportunity.
Archana ji or Archana Mami. No, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Namaskaram. Very nice to hear.
Namaskaram. Namaskaram.
Then we have Saumya ji. She says she's a Sanskritam teacher from Chennai. Very nice. Then we have, Harini, 12 years old. That's where we're very interested to hear from you. So what interested you in this workshop, Harini, if you're okay talking?
I go for a shloka class, and from there, my shloka teacher asked me to join this workshop, and I really enjoyed it.
Very good. Very nice. Good job. I hope you'll come back for the second session next weekend.
Okay.
Please come back. Yes. We have some fun projects that Vinodji has designed for you guys to work on.
Sure, I'll come.
Very nice. And then we have Rahulji. He's a college student in Kerala. One Vaidyanathan from Chennai. Very nice. I'm happy to see all these young people here today. Very nice. Thank you all for making the time. Vinodji, you're back. You ready again? You're muted.
We still have like a couple of 2 more minutes.
All right. Okay. Dr. Bharanidharan from Tamil Nadu. Very nice. Vaidyanathan Chandramouli ji. What do you do in Chennai? Are you in college? Oh, Vikas. Okay, Vikas.
Ma'am, namaste, ma'am. Ma'am, can you hear my voice?
Yes, yes. கேக்குறது சொல்லுங்க.
சென்னையில இருக்கேன்.
சொல்லுங்க. உங்களுக்கு அங்க ஏதோ பிஸியா இருக்கேள் போல் இருக்கு. That's okay.
இல்ல, நான் வந்து வேத பாடசாலை
Audio chedi.
Hello.
No problem. Then we have Prahada Prasanna, Sanskritam research scholar from Trichy. Fantastic. Umaji from Chennai, heritage and culture enthusiast interested in ancient Lipis of Bharatam.
Namaskaram, ma'am. I am a research scholar doing studies in modern literature of Sanskrit. So basically, Namaskaram, ma'am. Am I permitted to speak?
Yes,
Brahada
please.
from Trichy. I'm doing my research study in modern Sanskrit literature.
Okay. In Trichilia, are you doing that in Trichy?
I'm from Trichy basically.
Okay.
And I'm doing research study in modern Sanskrit literature.
Okay.
Taking the study of Jagadguru Rambhadracharya living in Uttar Pradesh.
Very nice. Very nice.
So I've submitted my PhD thesis on the same. So basically, I'm getting to know certain Lipis in Sanskrit, like say like Grantha and Devanagari, and I'm a trained Pandit of Hindi too. So wishing to know further Lipis in the same language.
Beautiful, beautiful. Congratulations and all the best. Very nice.
Thank you so much.
We'll give this back to. We'll give the.
Nice meeting you all in this forum.
Likewise.
Yeah,
let's give this back to Vinod ji now.
Yeah, let me start my clock. But I don't speak too much. So we start away. So share screen 2, share, right, yeah. So we saw about Kaloshti, and then we'll come on Brahmi. It's probably one of the most important scripts of India, right? There is this. Why isn't it working? There's this nice story in Jain literature why the first script is called Brahmi, right? So the story goes like when Adinatha, Vrishbhati Tankara, before he became a mendicant, before he was a king, right? He was one of the first kings. Yeah. When he was a king, right? He pretty much discovered all arts, all sciences, and he pretty much he's supposed to have discovered everything, right? And he's also supposed to have discovered writing. The story goes like he was in his palace, was in his Mahasana, and he was like, you know what? I should start teaching, spreading arts and science into the world, right? And then his 2 daughters came. One is called Brahmi, one is called Sundari, and Vishaba was like, you know what? I'm going to teach Brahmi all the letters from A to Ha, using my right hand, right? And because Brahmi was the first person, or even the first woman, first person who is a woman, to learn to write, the script came to be known by her name, and hence it's called Brahmi, right? And that's the story of like why the script is called Brahmi, at least from the Jain point of view. Again, I said Brahmi is one of the most important scripts of the entire Indian cultural area. It's one of the only script that was used like at some point from what's now Kashmir to up to even to Sri Lanka, right? They were using the same script for the part, or at least that did not change much around like 300, 400 years. As you can see, it's very regular, it's very pretty, and it's pretty much the mother of almost all the scripts that are written in India, in South Asia, like Sri Lanka, and even Southeast Asia, right? It's pretty much, it gave writing pretty much half of our continent, right? While Kharoshthi died within a few hundred years, but Brahmi did not, right? It just changed and evolved, and it multiplied into various other scripts. But as I said, like all Indian scripts, even like East Asian scripts, they might look different. But if you have learned either Devanagari or Tamil, Devanagari or Telugu, you know, like any two Indian scripts, you know that they behave very, very different, very, very similar. It may look different, it may feel different. The underlying how the script grammar works, it's pretty much the structure is pretty much the same. It's because it all goes back to Brahmi, right? Yeah, how it looks like. It's one of the edicts from Ashoka. Again, origins, there are like lots of theories of like how Brahmi was like came to be, right? One of the things is like while Ashoka was like doing the edicts, Kharoshthi already existed, right? You know what? He could have basically taken Kharoshthi and made some few changes, you know, some marks for like the Dirgha and Hraswa vowels, this and that, and he could have used it, but he did not, right? But he basically used Brahmin, right? And one of the theories which I tend to agree is that he wanted sort of an imperial script, or his predecessors wanted some sort of an imperial script, right? And they basically were inspired by Aramaic, and they knew the structure of Kharoshthi, how you'd use marks to write all the vowels, and based off then Brahmi was like quasi-invented or quasi-developed. I wouldn't say it was completely invented because it was still inspired, all these things, but why it was quasi-invented, because the script is very, very regular. It's very geometric. It was meant to be carved on stones, right? But it's very hard to write. Again, if you have seen Kharoshthi, right, you can see that it's very curvy. If you're a scribe, it's easy to write something with lots of curves because your pen just has to move. Or compared writing Brahmi, where you have lots of straight lines, you have a lot of like all these geometric shapes. It wasn't a script that was designed to be used by a scribe. Because the script by design was meant to be carved, was meant to look pretty, was meant to look imperial. Again, it's one of the edicts of Ashoka. You can see like they took a lot of effort to make it look pretty. You can see the proportions, right? Everything kind of beautifully fits in a box. With this carver did that, but you can see like a lot of attention was put into to make the writing look proportional and pretty. There's a table comparing Phoenician, Aramaic, Kharoshthi, and Brahmi. You can see like there are a few letters that are very, very similar. Of course, it wasn't a wholesale development of from Aramaic to Brahmi, like Kharoshthi. There are a few variations, but you can see like it's sort of inspired from Aramaic. And only in Brahmi it starts all this arrangement of like consonant vowels. So a, I, I, U, and your ga, 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 all these separate things. And your matras, it all starts with Brahmi, right? Because Kharoshthi did not have a, I, U. It had different vowels. It's called Arabachana, and that was the order that Kharoshthi used, that Gandhari used. They didn't have A, I, U, A, Ka, Ka, Ga, Ga, Ga. They had their own Varnamala, because Arabachana. And but this ordering of concepts like 5 Ka, Ga, 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 Cha, Cha, Danya, it all started with Brahmi, right? And having separate signs for the vowels, it again started with Brahmi. Kharoshthi did not do that. You had only A. You put matras around A to create your other vowels, right? Then matras, the same area as Karoshti. You take the basic consonant sign, you assume it has an R sound, right? Same like Karoshti, if you want to just put some sign above, below, and to the side to write your vowels. The conjuncts is the same concept, right? You have K and you have K. I want to write K. I just have to take two letters and squish them together, right? So I have K and Y, and if I wanted K, I just have to squish K and Y together. And it was simple, but it worked out, right? You can write Samyuktaksharas, you can differentiate like Harasva and Dirghas, you had different signs for all the vowels, you had like signs for like letters for all the consonants, right? I think Kharoshti didn't have the letter for J, Haprana J, because in Gandhar it did not need it. But Brahmi as such, it was like all this, like it had all the consonants, all the vowels, right? It differentiated all the vowel lengths, and it was very, very successful, right? It was instantly adopted, starting from, again, from North India to South India. It was just adopted. Even though the shapes changed, the basic structure pretty much remained stable over like 2 millennia, right? And that's the reason why Indian scripts, even though they might look different, behave pretty much same. It was adopted so far and wide just by the virtue of like having a copy of a copy of a copy of a copy. It just evolved into like so many beautiful other scripts. The sample again from one of the edicts of Ashoka. Again, you can see like very, very simple, but very, very pretty looking script, right? It's imperial. It's something that you can just look and appreciate it, even though you don't even need to understand it. Yeah. On that note, we go to our next topic. What is that unifies all of that Indian scripts? But you can take any two Indian scripts that are like not invented. Like there are lots of newly invented Indian scripts or all these Munda languages, but let's take them separately. But any traditional Indian script that evolved from Brahmi have pretty much the same structure, right? And it's true for any script from even from East Asia, Southeast Asia, or India. They have pretty much the same underlying structure. So what it is, there's again this nice quote from one of the Chinese travelers, right? He was a Chinese monk. He came to India to learn, of course, Sanskrit and write his travelogue. And he met an Indian monk, and he's like, you know what? He goes like, oh, do you know about Indian writing? He goes, yeah. I have in South India, I learned a script called Maheshwara. I don't know what he meant. Maybe he meant like he learned the Maheshwara Sutras that the Chinese monk misunderstood as a script. That's quite possible. And in Central India, I learned a different script. But you know what? They may look different, but the main features are identical. Even back then, people understood. By the time of some century, Brahmi have been diverged. It looked different. You had to learn them different, learn them again, learn them like two different scripts. They were not unified, but they knew that the features of the script were like pretty much identical. So I'm going to take two scripts. One is Sharada. It was used, or it's still used in Kashmir, although it's very, very reduced. It was used to write Sanskrit. There are lots of like Sanskrit manuscripts, lots of like literature written in Sharada. Yeah. And a few examples here. It's all in Sharada. You can find Sharada up to like, even in Afghanistan, it was like the whole northwest was like using Sharada. Again, I'm going to take Grantha at the very, very bottom, right? It's written in Tamil Nadu, used in Tamil Nadu. it was used much more widely in the 1900s, but then it declined. The same context, it's a heritage script. It's used to write Sanskrit. There's lots of manuscripts. It's something everybody used. Buddhist Jains, Hindus, it doesn't matter what religion you are. If you're in Tamil Nadu, want to write a northern language, either it's Prakrit or Sanskrit, you used Grantha. For instance, this is Sanskrit, and this is basically Prakrit, right? And Grantha was used for both. So one thing that unifies Indian scripts is the Varnapata, the Varnamala. So you have your swaras, your vowels, your 14 vowels or 16, depending on the language. And you have an arrangement of consonants that's pretty much common. That hasn't changed a lot, right? In fact, for Tamil, you can remove all the non-Varga consonants, and you pretty much will get the Tamil Varnamala. Right? And if it's in Telugu, you get right? This ordering of the consonants is pretty much the same in almost all Indian scripts, right? And the way how the matras work are also pretty much same. Idea of like putting something top, bottom, left to the right, it hasn't changed a lot. And one interesting that you might have noticed, like, I don't know how much of you know Tamil or Kannada. So Tamil, you can sort of wonder go or the Kannada. I want to say no, right? Basically, I wanted an A sound and I wanted A matra, right? If you wanted go, I have to do that. It's pretty much the same in Kannada as well. And it's like slightly modified A sound, but which is pretty the same as in Devanagari. You have the A sound and the A sound, right? And again, these might look different, but you can see that the structure, how to write O, is pretty much the same. In fact, in Bengali, same like Tamil. Someone write K. Okay, my Bengali is bad. It goes before the consonant, same like Tamil, right? Because in Brahmi, A goes to the left. So basically, this thing is like sort of like here the direction, the position is preserved, and here the direction of writing is preserved because it goes towards the left. So the matras, the placement of matras are pretty much the same. So if you can learn to detect patterns, you can see that. One of the things that makes Indian scripts unique, like all the consonants have an R sound, right? There's no grammatical reason why it should be the case. But it's a convention. It's easy because R is the most common sound, and you don't want to keep writing on thing because it just saves time being the most common sound. And if you want to remove the R sound, you need to write a halant or virama, whatever it is, which basically deletes the R and says, you know what, I just have to pronounce sound, right? Again, the concept of aksharas is pretty common among Indian scripts, how we divide into letters. For instance, in India, like in Latin, right, this would be like, how much is it? 6 letters, yeah. But if you ask like how many aksharas that Lakshmi have, right, people will instantly say it has 2 aksharas, right? 2 Indian letters. Akshara is something that cannot be translated. I just say akshara. So you have 2 aksharas. So how you like split the words into aksharas, right? It's pretty much common in all Indian scripts. Okay, Tamil counts aksharas slightly differently, but the concept same. Like one written group of like sounds, it's one akshara. And anyway, it pretty much comes to how it's written, right? Shmi is basically one huge visual cluster. And then it helps to like divide the word, like in terms of visual clusters, right? And that's how akshara works. And the writing helps to instinctively divide the words into like its own akshara clusters. That would be two. Even if it's Telugu, it's the same. Yeah, two aksharas here. La here. Yeah. Shmi here. The idea of writing samyukta is pretty much common. You have like, don't write, I don't know, I want ka and ta. I want to write ta. What I need to do is like switch them together vertically, right? And basically, idea of like squishing letters together to write samyukta it's common. The same visual grammar applies for any inscript. For example, this is this grantha. I want to write ta, it's made up thing. I take ta and squish it with ta and I write ta. Same with in Sharada. I want to write ka and ta. I get ta. Right. And this visual grammar it's common for all Indian scripts. Okay, in some scripts you have like Kannada has 4 letters, but in essence it's pretty much the same. The sample text in both the Grantha and in Sharada, right? You can see that these two look visually different, right? One is from the northernmost part of India. The other is like from the like southern tip, right? Even though they look different, the underlying visual grammar and the visual structure it's the same, right? So because when I was doing like when I was learning Sharada to do the Sharada font, it took me like a couple of hours to learn Sharada because since I knew Grantha, right? I was like, okay, I know how Samhita is formed. I know the words are written. I know like the whole grammar of writing. What I just need to learn were just the shapes of the letters. Okay, so the garb, the outer appearance is different, but essentially both the scripts they work in the same way, and that's what makes it as Indians for us to learn any Indian script. If you learn Malayalam, if you learn Devanagari, right, or if you learn any Indian script, right, to learn another Indian script, it's pretty much easy because the underlying the grammar, the structure hasn't changed much. It pretty much is the same. And if you're like attune yourself to look into like all these all these patterns, right? We can pick up and learn any Indian script easily, right? And people ask like how many scripts do I know? Like I can read about like 12 or 2,000 scripts, right? That's cheating because if you know one Indian script, you pretty much know every other Indian script. You just have to like memorize few signs, and if you can see like okay how the letters look, how they evolve, you can detect all these nice patterns, and you can pick it up. It's as easy as that. I'm gonna stop here. So we have some time for discussion. We have 15 minutes more. So next week we'll talk about how the very, very simplistic looking Brahmi just evolved, just exploded into various other scripts, and what are the like the underlying scientific principles behind that explosion, right? Because this plus sign, which is as simple as this, right, becoming as complex as this, it's mind-boggling. But we'll see why it happened and how it happened and what are the principles behind it. We'll also talk a bit about scripts, Indian scripts outside India. Particularly, my favorite would be them. So we'll talk a bit about Siddham, right? How Siddham went to Japan, how it's used there, and how Buddhists in Japan still like pretty much worship Siddham letters, right? One of the things are like it's part and part of like Japanese culture. You can't separate Siddham's Indian writing from Japan anymore. It's just intertwined, and that it still survives. It will still survive for a long, long time. We'll also see an example of Indian writing in Laos, how they adopted the Pallava letters. Like Pallavas are like pretty much they gave writing to all of Southeast Asia, right? And how Indian script went into Laos, how it was adopted. And we'll also look into what it means by preserving Indian scripts and how you can revive a script. And we'll end it with what's Unicode and just overview of like what goes into doing an Indian font, right? An Indian font. It's not just designing letters. You also have a bit of programming to do because Indian scripts are that's what we're gonna have next week. But I'm gonna stop here so that we can have some discussion. If you have any questions, you can ask me. You have like 15 minutes more, which is what I wanted. And yeah, that's
Nice.
it.
Any questions, anybody? Any questions?
Hi, this is Satya from Bangalore. Yeah, I have seen one of the sloka on the slides that we should not write certain things, and who learns from the writings are the script are the worst learners. But my question is like, there should be some script, right? If I want to inform some secret to Vinodji via Archana ji, it should be kept. It should be written on a letter and ask Archana ji to deliver to Vinodji. So whether it is ancient time or today, it is the need to
you don't
send
have
a
to, right?
secret message.
You can have a spy that goes on and whispers. Writing is not inherent for language, right? Like Tulu is a very language that people by lakhs of people. It doesn't have writing. Now they're trying to write in Kannada and Tulu, right? But you don't need it. Like I speak Telugu, right? I natively speak Telugu from Tamil Nadu, but my dialect hasn't been written in for 400 years, right? Like, which is sad because the Tamil Nadu dialect of Telugus are like actually dying, but my dialect is never written down. It's still passed on from generation, and you don't need writing for any of those. If you want to seek knowledge,
And if I may add
there are
one thing,
situations.
to that previous question, the shloka that Vinodji put there was from Shiksha and applies specifically to Veda recitation. So it is specifically applies to Veda Pata, so and not to Laukika texts as such.
I added because I know because it's to get a general idea of like what people feel about writing and reading.
And there are needs, right? One scenario is that I want to transmit a secret message to some other person via some through friend or something, or like we have seen so many kings have written down saying that they own this kingdom during this period, and
But
they developed certain things.
it all came, if we go to writing, right? Writing evolved not because of secrets, it's because
Okay.
administrative needs.
Yeah.
Because it was more than
Yes,
secret,
yes,
right?
right.
You won't have a record of like, okay, this person has like so many cows, so many wheat, and he needs so much taxes. He has to need so much taxes, right?
Agree.
And
Yeah.
writing evolved because of administrative need that rather than like military need.
Administrative. Yeah, that's the right thing. Yeah, that's most important. So
Yeah.
administrative need is the cause for inventing the scripts.
Writing, yeah. Right. If you see the early in cuneiform like artifacts, they're like basically so many bags of wheat and barley and all that, basically numbers and basically for like recording things.
And which Indian language has all kind of things could be written? I mean, whatever you say, I mean, whatever someone says could be expressed in written format without missing any sounds. Just curious.
Any letter, any script, any you can like you can use Telugu or Kannada, it doesn't matter. If you want, you can invent new letters. You can take any script, modify it, and write it.
Okay.
Vinodji, there are a couple of questions. One is from Vishrut. What were some grammatical differences between the different scripts? Were they also retained?
Where is it?
It's up in the chat.
YouTube. There, comma.
Just
No, the thing is,
yeah.
when I say grammar, I say written grammar. I don't use say like linguistic grammar. Like, what do you mean grammatical differences exactly?
I was asking like a combination of grammar, like the punctuation plus the vocabulary. How were they different from script to script? Or were they but they just
it was pretty much the same. Like when Brahmana, they didn't change much. There was some experimentations. For instance, if you go to Bhattiprolu, they didn't like the idea of like using consonants together. So they had a sign for ka and they had another sign for ka, right? So basically, if you want to write, say, I don't know, Pataka, I write pa, put another sign for a, and ta, put another sign for a, and ka, and put another sign for a, right? And people experimented a lot, and those did not survive, fortunately. And Tamil did something similar as well. It did not like punching consonants. They tried different way of writing it, and they finally settled with writing using a pulley, right? So what I just if you want to kill something, just put a dot. Simple as that. I don't want to like squish letters and write my consonants. So there were different experimentations. Some of them survived for Tamil, survived for a long time. Some of them did not survive, like Bhattiprolu. It died out. That convention never worked out.
Okay.
Yes. Then there's a question from Rajat Ji. I have heard of Tamil Brahmi. Could you please throw some light on it?
Tamil Brahmi, the general consensus is like, I know there are a lot of theories, but the general consensus in literature is like it came from Northern Brahmi. So people came from the north and they brought writing. And so one of the reasons, right, if at least in Old Tamil, if you want to write a and o, there are no separate letters. You take the long a and the long o, and you put a dot, right? So basically, when Tamils adopted Brahmi, they had like all these ad hoc conventions how to write Tamil letters. I said, right, the theory is like you take the existing repertoire of consonants, you modify it for your language. So you wanted A and O, the Hrasva forms. You know what? You'll just put a dot and assume it's A and O. Again, they want to write R. Northern Map didn't have R. but the closest sound would be D, right? And you just have to put small circle and you get Tamil R, right? And same with like L, the retroflex L, Northern doesn't have it. You just take the Brahmi L and put an extra stroke, you get Tamil L, which is just a modified form of the Brahmi. And if you can see the Tamil ordering of letters, you go Kanga Chanyanya Tana Tana Pamama, and all the Tamil letters are pretty much squeezed towards the end. Yeah, R, L, V, R, L, R, N. Like all the 4 Tamil specific letters are just added towards the end as an addendum, right? So that makes sense because they're all like invented later, and you want to put them somewhere in the alphabet, you just put them towards the end.
Very nice. Vinodji, there's a question from, Vikas Ji, I think. If we can learn old Grantham script, which written in... your question is not very clear. Can you come and speak up, Chandra, Vikas Ji?
Nowadays, that Grantha script, old Grantha script, which written in manuscripts, palm leaves, or how சாத்தியம்
நீங்க தமிழ்லயே கேளுங்க, ப்ராப்ளமே இல்ல.
இல்ல பழைய கிரந்த ஸ்கிரிப்ட வந்து இப்ப கத்துக்க முடியுமா?
கத்துக்கலாங்க. நீங்க வந்து விஷாலாட்சி ஒரு புக் எழுதியிருக்காங்க, எப்படி பழைய அந்த கூகு எல்லாம் இருக்கிறதுக்கு. அதே மாதிரி குரனண்டால் புக் இருக்கு, ஓலையில கிரந்த எழுத்துக்கள்.
புரியல.
குரனண்டால் புக் லிங்க் அனுப்புறாங்க. அப்புறம் 2 புக் இருக்கு, நீங்க பழைய கிரந்தம் கத்துக்கணும்.
The Granendal was, I think, chatla, if you can put in, it would be saukaryama irukum.
Yeah, I can do that.
And while you're doing that, Vishruth has another follow-up question. How did languages in North India and South India grow to be so different?
You mean scripts or languages? Both are 2 different things.
Oh, yeah.
I meant both, because I meant scripts, because there were so many different letters in Devanagari and like modern Tamil.
It's because again, right, it comes to like random variation in one way. If you have a copy, right, and somebody takes a copy of that, and something just random variation. Other thing would be the material. In South, we use like palm leaf manuscripts, which the theory goes like you can't have straight lines with palm leaf manuscript. It will tear it, so you have to take it curved. And one of the reasons, like all South Indian letters up to like even Sinhala, or even Oriya and Kannada and Telugu, they all develop like curved letters, right? Compared to North India, where people use like bitch sparks with ink, right? So partially it comes to like which medium it was written. Right? Try taking like your mouse and try writing Devanagari. It will look completely different, because how you hold the implement and how it's written, it's hard to write certain shapes, and eventually you write something different. And if someone copies that again over like dozens of generations, right, at the end of the day you'll end up having like a different step. It's like biological evolution, basically. All these small changes, they just accumulate over time.
Wow. Rajatji has her hand raised.
Namaste. So I wanted to ask that in Indian languages, the scripts which we are having, they are having different symbols, but the sounds are the same, right? K is same in every language. You have different symbols to represent.
Again, I have to pause you there. Theoretically, they are the same, but in some cases they have changed. Like Oriya, Ya is almost a J, same in Bengali. Right? Bengal people, they write Lakshya, but they pronounce Lakha. Right?
Okay.
They write, I don't know, Katya, but they pronounce Gata. Right? So the
I guess there are
normative.
exceptions. There are probably exceptions to the norm. But what I want to ask is, but if you look at European languages, you have pretty much every language in the Latin script, but the way they pronounce the alphabet is different. The A is, of course, in English, but in many other languages, it's something like that. So the written is the
Okay.
same, but the way they pronounce is different.
The thing is like, if Indian language, you divide it like two different groups, right? One would be North and South Indian languages. And the phonology, all the South languages come under, they pretty much have the same phonology. You more or less have the 12 vowels. It's phonology is like more or less the same. And that helps a lot. But in Europe, right, we have like a dozen different languages and they had different scripts before Latin was imposed. Like English was never written in Latin. They started writing with runes, and the runes were supposed to be pagan. And when they became Christian, they adopted Latin. Same with Norwegian languages, like all the Scandinavian languages, they had runes, which was the native script. They became Christian and they adopted Latin, right? But for most Indian languages, right, the first time it was written with some sort of Brahmi variant. It's not like they just switched scripts, and that also helps. It's not like somebody just came, you know what, here you have to use Latin. And that did not happen with India.
Nice. Thank
Very
you for those
interesting. Is
questions.
there some more information where I can study? Runes I've seen in Sweden. There are some rune stones in Stockholm. I was roaming and in the museums I saw. But you are saying in other parts of Europe also there were rune stones, is it?
Yeah. Like English was written in runes.
Oh, okay.
English and Anglo-Saxon runes are like very common because
I see.
you have
Is
German
there some
runes.
place where I can read more about it?
I don't know on top of my head. There is this book by Daniel Wright called Writing Systems of the World. It might have information. I have the book somewhere in my bookshelves. I have to check. But yeah, probably it has chapter about runes.
Okay, thank you.
So we're right on the dot. Are there any more questions? Okay. So we'll see you all again, hopefully.
Rajat has his hand raised.
I think he just asked his question. I took it down. Yeah.
Okay.
So if we don't have any more questions, we will see you all again next weekend at the same time. Thank you for all those enlightening questions. I learned a lot listening to you all. So we'll give you your Sunday back. And thank you, Vinodji. We'll see you again next weekend. Especially the kids who came today. Please come back next week. We want you guys there. You are our primary audience of interest. So please come and we'll talk to you again next weekend. Namaskaram.